conversations. If you want to catch up on any previous episode, visit us at www.coderconvos.com. It's your host, Kevin.
And my name's Brian Russick, professional drummer based out of the Suffolk County, Long Island, New York area. If anyone wants to hit me up for a drum lesson, you can reach me at brianrussick.com.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, yeah, today I want to dive into the topic of like the American economy because so many people are having trouble finding jobs. There's so many layoffs going on, and I don't really see the clear path out.
Yeah, I mean, what, in your opinion, what's the reason for the decline in the economy and, now the decline in people getting jobs?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly due to greed. So during the pandemic, housing prices in a lot of areas they doubled, but then they say, oh, it's a supply chain shortage of this or that. Prices just flew up, but they never came back down even after there was no more shortage. So it's just like
Right.
more profit going into my pocket.
Yeah, no, it just seems like the real estate industry just wants to jack up all the prices. Like, I think back to, okay, 2009. I was in LA. I had a nice one-bedroom apartment in a really nice area just below Hollywood, and I was paying only 950 a month. Now that same street, that same building, most likely, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's going for like 3 grand. So it's
Right.
tripled. Yeah. So the price of rent in LA has tripled, and it's probably tripled in some other areas of the country as well.
Yeah, but there's like the salaries haven't tripled, but rent is shot up, price of food, price of everything is just like shot to the ceiling. And the issue is that if people are not making more money, then there's eventually going to come to a point where they don't have money to buy these products. Like I just seen a story where isn't it like Amazon Prime Day or something? But like I think sales dropped like 40%.
Oh, wow.
Because people don't have money to buy stuff.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know that at least in the kind of like New York metro area, Long Island area, um, I know a guy who does Uber, and he has a Tesla. So he does the more expensive, like the nicer Uber ones. And he said normally that's really good money. Like you'll get 60 bucks, 100 bucks, 150 bucks for one ride. So, and he got the Tesla for that reason. He wanted to do, higher level jobs, but he said it's basically dead. Like it's been dead for weeks. He's having to do deliveries, like grocery deliveries for Walmart or Amazon Fresh. So he's doing all these deliveries just to get by because in terms of Uber, he would only get like the cheap rides, which he said, it's crazy, like $6, $8, $12. It's like that compared to $100 for a ride. Like there's no comparison. So he's basically being forced to have to change gears, and now he delivers groceries.
Yeah, and with all of these tech layouts going on, Uber and all of these things, they're kind of like a pressure release valve. Like I worked Uber Eats when I got laid off. It's just a way to make some money. But now with people not really using it as much and not the premium version, and now they have Waymo, like these AI powered cars. Now they're removing the like the pressure release valve. So like if AI powered cars are taking that option away and somebody's just unemployed for months on end, then I mean things are going to get really really bad, and it's just greed. Like why do these corporations need to like take every single avenue away and minimize compensation?
Yeah, and then like we're also talking about the housing markets. Why do real estate people feel like you could take an apartment, in a pretty nice area that's pretty cheap and go ahead and triple that price without doing any like major renovations on it. To me, that's just wild. I mean, that reminds me of my aunt. My aunt grew up in New York. She's lived in New York her whole life. Um, she used to live in Manhattan, which is really expensive. And she had, I think, a rent controlled apartment. But basically, what happened is the building got sold and then bought by someone else. And they basically said, if you want to stay, you have to pay double. So that's pretty much what's happening across the country.
Yeah, exactly. And if compensation doesn't go up, there's eventually a point to where people, even if they wanted to, they can't. They simply don't have the money to buy these products, move into these upscale apartments, or any of that. Like if you have to pretty much make six figures to afford a basic house now, and not every, most people are not making six figures.
Yeah, I mean
But
your average kid, like straight out of high school, straight out of college, they're working minimum wage jobs, server, pizza delivery, Chinese delivery, like stuff like that. They're not really making over. I mean, I was delivering for a little bit Chinese food just to, make a couple bucks, and they weren't reimbursing me for gas. So, when it came down to it, I was probably only making like $5 an hour, which is insane.
right, so how are you going to afford an apartment that's like 1,500, 1,700? Now you need a car to actually go do the job, and you can't have medical. You're not going to have any of that. It's just like it's just pretty much poverty. Like unless you're one of the lucky ones who have a job in like something like tech, then you're pretty much going to be in poverty. And now with the tech jobs, they're shaping things up to where the compensation is going lower and lower. So they think they can replace all the engineers with AI, but they're going to find out pretty quickly that it's not going to end up how they think.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about that, I think, is that AI will replace a lot of junior roles, like a lot of junior roles. However, the problem becomes, where do you get the junior that turns into the senior? If it's just an AI bot, how is the AI bot going to go from junior to senior? It can't. It just has one capability. And I mean, it might have good capabilities, it might have good resources, but like you can't replace a human with a machine. I mean, you can, and they are, but you really can't replace a human. We're original. We think on our feet. A robot is not going to be like that. But these companies feel like, okay, we could just lay off all of our junior developers, all our junior staff, and just, buy this chat bot for like $10,000. And yeah, $10,000 is a lot at first, but now we can cut Jimmy out of a job, Regina out of a job, like 50K, 75K. Okay, all of a sudden, like, that's gone and back into the owner's pocket.
Yeah, and there's a lot of salesmen that's really hyping up this AI stuff, but what they're gonna find out is that who's gonna handle the edge cases, like when something goes wrong with the database or the app is not doing what you expect, but you only have like two or three programmers, whereas before you had 10, and they're swamped with work because they're doing the work of several other engineers, and now they're having to you having this AI implementation that is generating all of this code. Like if something goes wrong, then there's a huge problem. Like money's just going to be leaking. Like imagine like Black Friday, they lay off all of these engineers. They have this AI generating code, and then something goes wrong. You know, how are they going to fix that? You know what I mean? And if the system is down for hours or days, they're going to miss out on a ton of money. So, a lot of these companies are setting themselves up for just by jumping into this AI hype train fully.
Yeah, no, I think what's probably going to be funny and probably realistic is that it's going to blow back on all these companies. It's going to blow up right in their face. Where, like I said, if you don't have a junior, how do you have seniors? The juniors become the seniors. So if you fire all of your junior people, and maybe you fire some of your mid-level people too, because you figure, oh, well, they're disposable as well. Like at a certain point, you just have senior developers, and they're not going to want to do like all the testing and whatever. Some of these jobs that juniors are basically tasked with. A lot of the senior developers are going to be like, no, well, I'm more like focused on architecture, design, maybe UI, but not tests. I don't write tests. So there's going to be a major problem. Like I don't know how soon this will happen, but maybe 6 months, maybe a year before it like blows up in their face. But I think it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. Like you, because at a certain point, yeah, if there's no juniors and it's all seniors, then something goes wrong. Then these companies are really going to be fighting over these seniors that know how to fix the problem. So if you're like a high level senior and above, then yeah, there's going to be a time period where you could probably make a ton of money to fix all of these issues that are coming down the pipeline. Um,
Yeah.
but like what I think a lot of companies are doing is they're shipping the jobs overseas, or they're using the H-1B visas to import workers in, and yeah, that works. But on the other hand, like once those workers finish their time in America, all of the tech expertise leaves America. So like
Yeah.
we're not going to have any technical expertise domestically. So that's like a security threat in the long run. Like if nobody in America really has any technical expertise, let's just say there's nothing wrong with the trades, but we're all tradesmen, then how do you progress as a nation? You can't.
Right, you kinda get, pigeonholed or just, like, stuck in the corner of a room basically, with your back to the wall, and you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do." Like, these companies, axing all the juniors, it's really terrible because, that junior needs mentorship, and, people looking for entry level jobs, they need training, they need mentorship. It was something I never got as a junior developer. I used to do React front end UI, and I worked at one company where they basically sent me the whole code base and said, "Okay, start building out these features." And I'm like, "Well, this is my first job. Like, don't you have training? Like, what's going on?"
Hey Eric, welcome aboard.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, great to have you back on the show, man. Yeah, so yeah, I know you've been listening in on the conversation. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, been trying to wherever I can. It's been pretty busy.
Yeah, so like yeah, we've been talking about like the kind of like the state of the tech industry and the problems that are going to come if most of these engineers start getting laid off and replaced with AI.
hmm
I believe like there's going to be a huge issue where if nobody's there to really understand what the AI is putting out and to verify it, or nobody there to handle the edge cases, then you're creating like a very dangerous situation, especially in like mission critical applications.
Right.
You know,
hmm
like what is your opinion?
Well, I come from the world of medical devices where we deal with regulated software and hardware, of course. And that's a real concern because you do need subject matter experts to understand, hey, is this real or not? Because I mean, I've used some form of AI throughout my career. So when you hear these CEOs have, oh, X amount of percent of our code is written with AI. It's like, okay, you're using code completion. Are you using ChatGPT? Okay, well, what else is new?
Right.
For me, I've used some form of AI throughout my entire career. So for me, I'm like, yeah, so what? Okay, is it helping you? Is it really augmenting your software engineering team? Is it making them more productive? Probably not. In fact, there was this recent survey that went out that AI is actually making people dumber and it
I
makes you
heard about
less
that.
productive, which
Yeah, I
is
heard about that.
right. Which I'm in some ways I'm not too surprised because it's making people very lazy.
Yeah,
and they just automatically assume, oh, the AI is correct. Well, how do you know the AI is correct? It could be completely wrong,
could be a
and because you don't
hallucination.
know what it was
Yeah,
trained on.
Yeah, that's the issue. There is like, okay, AI, it could be a good scaffolding tool, but when you look at it as a worker replacement, that becomes the issue. And this AI
Oh
has
yeah,
to be trained on data, and if the people producing the data no longer know how to produce the original application, how is the AI going to train enough to be able to output code to create these desired applications?
right.
yeah, that's a huge problem.
hmm Oh yeah, it's not going to replace subject matter expertise. There's no question about that. I mean, will it definitely be helpful for augmenting, for automation? Absolutely, and that's where I think it is a very good use case. But as far as just flat out replacing people, to a point.
Yeah, I think you know a lot of CEOs are really buying into this because they think it's short term. Like, okay, we're axing three or four hundred k, 200k salaries, and now we're replacing it with
hmm
the AI that generates code. And in the short term, yeah, it looks like big savings, but the real problem of axing expertise, it doesn't become evident until later on, like maybe months down the line when something goes wrong. Or
Yeah, and then you have to rehire those same engineers for like double, triple salaries to clean up the mess they created.
That's right.
exactly.
So you think about it from that perspective, yeah, they're actually losing money, and in fact, a lot of CEOs are losing their jobs over this, and just because hey, it's not delivering the value you claimed it would bring. So we're seeing a lot of that happening now. It's been pretty hard for CEOs this year.
Right, and we've been able to speak with some people who worked at these large companies on AI, and they've pretty much said like it's not what we think it is, not like as advanced as it's being sold as. So I think it's more of a marketing job that hey, you get this AI solution in and you can save millions on salaries, but that's not the engineering reality.
Well, there is also, if you figure there's also the recent tax changes, which where now for software engineers, R&D used to be able to be expensed on the taxes, so now that all changed. So now software engineers are more expensive, and so now companies have said, well, instead of hiring software engineers in the United States, we'll just hire them elsewhere where they're cheaper. Let's be honest.
Right.
And yeah, there you go. So you're seeing that plus the fact a lot of these companies, they overhired like crazy because let's face it, what was the interest rate was zero, and hey, it's free
Yeah.
money.
Right.
Okay, well, let's just hire a bunch of people. In fact, I had one company reach out to me during this crazy time, and they said, "Oh yeah, we just bought three companies, and we want to increase the size of engineering by 50%." And I'm doing the mental math on this. And I'm like, "What the hell are you guys doing? I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are going out of business soon."
Yeah, I think that during the pandemic, yeah, there was a lot of hiring going on, and
hmm
you know a lot of those people are being asked where if they're not really bringing value.
Right.
But it also seems like a lot of highly talented engineers are being asked from like FANG companies, and now they're in the market competing as well. So
hmm
Yeah, because like on LinkedIn, if you're looking at, your home screen, your feed, I'm just seeing layoff, 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 and
Right.
all different sectors, all different areas. Even saw one guy from Ford said that they let, I don't think it's public, but that they let a bunch of workers go. He was one of them. He was there for like 3 or 4 years. So this is
hmm
starting to, it's happening in small bursts, but soon it's going to be like rampant, I think.
hmm Oh yeah, it's just going to get worse. I think. We'll see what happens. I mean, but you just don't know right now.
like you did mention like they're hiring like overseas, like Latin America, Asia, etc. And I've seen it
hmm
firsthand working at a lot of these companies. I think the issue is if Americans domestically they're not able to get these jobs, then we're not going to have any domestic technical expertise. Like a friend sent me well, he told me about the Navy having problems manufacturing new ships because they just don't have the expertise or the manufacturing facilities to be able to do that. And I
Right.
can see that on the tech level as well. Like if all of our, all of our tech workforce is derived from overseas labor. Eventually they're going to start their own companies in their own country that compete with ours, and we're just going to have like decades of missing experience there. So how do you?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Yeah.
seeing a
Great
lot of
point.
people they're retiring, and you see us in the trades where you've got people with decades of experience. They're retiring. No one's there to replace them, and there's no one behind them. And we're seeing this in tech too. We're seeing a lot of that, and we're gonna have a big brain drain. And it's no surprise you're seeing a lot of old systems from years ago still being hobbled together. And in fact, here in San Francisco, our Muni Metro system, our little subway, it runs on a system that has to be booted from floppy disks every morning. That's old.
No way.
No, I'm deadly serious. It actually runs on floppies.
Wow.
That's how old it is. And they're trying to replace the thing, and that's going to take a little while. But it's really scary. You think about we're running major infrastructure on a computer that has less power than your phone. I mean,
Right.
which is just
Right.
silly. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a multi-billion-dollar industry in keeping up these old systems because the people either retired, they moved on, or whatever, and companies are still relying on them. And you think about the amount of legacy code that's out there, particularly on mainframes. I mean, if you look at like say if you buy an airline ticket, for example, okay, it goes through Sabre. That's one of the oldest programs around, and which is supposedly like 30 million lines of code or whatever the heck it is. It's something
Wow.
huge, and it's ancient as hell, written in COBOL.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do you expect? I mean, they're not going to replace it overnight because it just works. How are you going to replace it? And then if you decide to replace it, how are you going to qualify it and validate and make sure it actually works the same as what you're trying to replace? Good luck with that.
Right. 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 That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of this critical infrastructure. I know a lot of banking code is written in like Fortran, COBOL. This those
Mhm.
older languages, and like you
Yeah.
mentioned, there's nobody that understands it, and the people that do, they're retiring.
Oh
Then
yeah.
you can have a lot of like ghost, mysterious code that nobody understands, and if engineering standards are declining,
Mhm.
because I'm gonna just use AI to generate this code or whatever, then you have people who don't understand even modern code. So how are they going to architect new systems that are
Mhm.
reliable?
That's right. Well, it's just your point on some of these older languages. I mean, I remember when Fortran and COBOL were electives in college. You actually learned those things. Now,
Yeah.
nobody's teaching that. I mean,
No.
or if you do with some online program, maybe if you're lucky. I know IBM puts together some COBOL class some time ago because all of a sudden people started talking about COBOL, then all of a sudden, okay, here it is. But yeah, there's a lot of old languages they're still used in the wild, and people don't realize it.
And then a lot of stuff I think is written in Java that people
Mhm.
don't really want to redo for like JavaScript, for instance.
No.
Yeah, I think you know a lot of critical code is written in these older languages, and you know if nobody here understands it, then what happens? Like once the current crop of programmers that still have that knowledge retire,
Mhm.
um,
It's a major problem. Yeah.
It is. Well, it might be where you might be ending up like Y2K, where a lot of these old programmers came out of retirement and made a ton of money because no one knew how this code worked, and they did. So
right.
keep your old skills up. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Might come in handy in a few years.
Like I think the other aspect of it is like America, we're in tons of debt now, so
Mhm.
where are we going to get the money to either pay older programmers who understand this technology still, or to replace these systems if we don't have the sufficient funds.
Mm. I would argue the funds are there; they're just not spent well.
True, that is true. There's a lot of
If they really had to replace it, they would do it. They're gonna move heaven and earth to get it done because if it's critical enough, they'll do it.
Right.
They just don't want to do it because people like to kick the can to next year. Oh, it's not important. I'll get around to it, and then suddenly, oh my God, we got to do something. Okay, now they got to do it. Of course, by that point, it's going to cost 10 times as much.
right. Like I've been seeing a trend of like digital nomads, people who have these remote jobs and they move to a lower cost of living country. I think
Mhm.
that we're going to see more of that, but I'm also seeing pushback from the countries that they're moving to. For example, like
Yeah.
Mexico, there was riots from digital nomads moving in, raising the prices due to kind of gentrifying the local population. So
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah. That's been a real problem in a lot of cities throughout Europe, particularly ones with high unemployment like Spain, Portugal, and other places. And I thought that whole digital nomad thing kind of peaked years ago because I know that was a thing for a while. And then eventually countries started clamping down on it because it started getting out of hand.
right, like what do you think is like a good survival strategies like for somebody who's maybe just getting into tech? Like, what should they do to save money and even just to plan for the future to have a livable life?
Yeah, what do
Well,
you do?
well, I think it really comes down to is take a look at your lifestyle and just keep it simple. What it comes down to. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no real easy solution. You see a lot of people, really. It kind of reminds you of the dot-com boom in a way of what's going on. Just replace internet with AI basically. And there are people living large and whatever. And me, I was living very simply, kept my expenses to a minimum, didn't have all the flashy toys, and then of course everything cratered. Well, okay, I
Yeah.
was reasonably well off. I had money, and well, everybody scattered home and wherever else they went. So yeah, it's just basically live simply.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are pretty much going to be forced to do that because now they don't even have the money to live luxuriously.
Right. Well, if you look at the car look at the car loan situation we're in. I mean, people are behind on car loans. That's what a good $1 trillion of debt right there. That's
Right.
waiting to implode. We got a
Right.
housing market that's ready to implode as well. People and they're maxing out the credit cards, and it's a ticking time bomb right now.
Yeah, we were talking before you joined just about rent and real estate, and I was saying I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles back in 2009. I was
Mhm.
paying 950 a month, 950. Now that same street, that same building, most likely is 3,000. So that
Yeah.
means it's tripled. The rent has tripled in I don't know how many years that is. 18, 20 years.
Mm. Yeah, that's crazy. Man, 3,000 bucks. That'd be like a studio or one bedroom in San Francisco or much of the Bay Area.
Or Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see like everybody's not making six figures, so
No.
you know, it has to come to an end eventually. Like the mathematics simply doesn't hold up. Like they can't
Mm.
keep raising prices and salaries aren't going up. I'm just trying to figure now, like where's the money coming from that's holding everything up? I guess like multiple people are living in what would once be like a single person living there, or two people, maybe five people are like a
Mhm.
roommate type of situation.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not uncommon that you'd have multiple people sharing a two bedroom, probably double bunked up. Probably it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's I didn't think like things would like change this quickly, like devolve this fast, but we're kind of here at the tech apocalypse. I think you made some great decisions by living frugally.
Mhm.
The younger generation, they can't even get in the game in the first place, so I don't even
Right.
know what can I can't I tried I made a post earlier today, like I don't even know what I can tell them. There's not like any formula, like any secret thing that I can tell them that now they got a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about, a junior React developer nowadays. Where are they gonna get hired? Because if you look at a
Right.
lot of these job postings, they're saying, "Okay, entry level, junior, but we want 3 years of JavaScript and we want 2 years of SQL." It's like, "Wait, hold on a second." Like, you put entry level, you put junior in your
Mhm.
title, and now you want mid-level? Like, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. But the
Mhm.
thing is, so many people are laid off. You do have seniors and you do have mid-level people taking these junior roles. And I don't
Right.
know what the junior is doing, just kind of out in the cold, I think.
Some of them, yeah, yeah. A lot of them are out in the cold. I mean, it kind of reminds me of even when I graduated, we had a bit of we were in a recession, and I was lucky enough to get at a software company, and I was able to get a tech support job there. Which, okay, it wasn't the greatest, but hey, it was a job.
Yeah,
Let's be
right.
honest. But at the same time, at least I had work. So while I had work and I didn't have to go back to school for my last semester, which was great. Um, by the time they graduated, well, I knew a lot of computer science majors who were quite literally flipping burgers for 6 months
Wow.
until they actually found something.
Wow.
And I was trying to get people in my company, say, hey guys, hey, we're trying to hire some people. Come on. But what I've told a lot of junior engineers, like, take roles that might be, shall we say, not what you're after. But let's say if you're going for a software engineering position, go for a job in technical support or software quality assurance,
Yeah.
because you figure, one, nobody wants those jobs in the first, so you're gonna have less competition for them. But number two, you get your foot in the door in a company, you get the chance to prove yourself, you get to make some money, and you learn some valuable experience. In fact, that's what I did with one computer science graduate. He was looking for a software engineering position. We didn't have anything software engineering, but hey, we got a software QA role, and you can, hey, at least you can pick up some good stuff along the way. He's done a bang up job there so far, and he's done great work. And he actually is starting to do some more coding here and there, and he's done a great job. So really, don't knock those jobs off, because at least, one, you're getting experience, you're getting paid, and who knows, you could, it might actually lead something else.
And I've heard from recruiters say that, a bulk of these jobs can be trained up on.
Oh
You
yeah.
could bring in just an entry level person with, they know a little bit about Word, Excel, but that's
Hmm.
about it, your baseline. But you can teach these people how to become solution architects and, crypto, whatever crypto does, and,
Yeah,
all different types of software development. It's just we're living in we're living in strange times.
it is, and I think it's really unfortunate that so many companies just refuse to train or upskill their own employees, because there was a time when companies did train their employees and upskill. And that's why you saw people stay at a company for 20, 30 years,
Right.
because they were constantly learning on the job. They could get training for X, Y, and Z, or there was mobility. Now it's not that way anymore. They're like, oh, we want someone with that experience. Well, what about upskilling your existing people with that instead of losing them to another
Right.
company? And then, oh, now what? So now you lose good people, and all that domain knowledge goes out the door, because you want to hire somebody with the new flashy skill as opposed to just training people with it.
Right. And then you're like, "Oh, okay, let me just go out and buy the latest chat GPT bot, whatever chat bot." It's not going to do it. It's not going to be enough.
No, well,
Yeah, like domain expertise, that's a huge point. Like
yeah,
that's not something that you can just go and buy. You can't just go hire some new guy and he knows the system day one.
no,
So
no. I've
Exactly.
worked on systems that would take you about a year to get up to speed to really understand it, because they were just that complicated. You had so many moving parts, and to really understand it holistically, yeah, it took you about a good year to understand it, and because it was just that complicated.
right, I think there's going to be a huge hesitation to make changes if a new person is coming in. Like they don't know the thought process behind why this is like this or that is like that. So they're
Yeah,
gonna kind of patch in, kind of do a form of coding where they work around what's already existing versus
that's
like
right.
being able to cleanly update the code.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, or they can already blindly make a change without realizing the repercussions of why you don't want to make a change there, because it ends up breaking something else and makes something 10 times worse, and it causes all kinds of weird side effects that people don't fully understand. Because I remember early in my career, I would make the mistake of looking at some code. I was like, God, this is garbage. What the hell is this? And then you start to realize, you learn over time, it's like there was a reason this was done. Maybe it wasn't optimal, but
Yep.
okay, we did it for a reason. And you have to understand why it was done a certain way. And then you realize, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You make a simple change like, oh, I'm gonna approve this code, and something else blows up down the line. Like you get a call like, oh, this broken prod or something, and you realize, oh, it was that change that you made that you didn't realize everything it was doing initially. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a huge problem, and
Mhm.
you can't just like the people with the domain expertise, they're not interchangeable cogs. Like you can't just get rid of them and bring in a cheaper workforce because okay, let's just say you hire somebody who's not only less skilled, but they have less domain expertise, but they're working on a critical system. So
Right.
now this actually poses risk to people's lives when
Mhm.
you bring in these new programmers and they don't really understand the system, nor are they skilled. In a lot of organizations, there's not that much testing. It's not like every organization they do 100% unit testing and
Right.
different forms of testing. So
Mhm.
And you got to figure, with the AI, what is it called? AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
When are we going to see that, and what is it going to look like? And is it going to spawn ASI, artificial super intelligence?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the point about testing. It's like you'd be surprised how many companies do not have very good testing. It's pretty shocking, actually. Some of the testing I've seen, it's like, what? Did you even test this thing? And we've seen. I've worked at companies where our methodologies were just horrible. It was like, okay, does it work? And some of the most basic things got broken. And then we started putting in some more formal testing in, and then, wow, look what we're finding. Hey, yeah, it makes a difference. And then when you automate the test, it's even better. And yeah, I remember some companies who were trying to brag, oh, we have 100% code coverage and all this, and like, really? Okay, let me call you out on that claim because there are a lot of companies who claim that, but how many actually do that? Not many in practice, because
I see.
getting 100% code coverage is like, yeah, that is just next to impossible. Honestly, I
Yeah.
mean, you could do it to a point, but at the same time, your testing package ends up being greater than the code you're actually writing at the end of the day, because someone's got to maintain that code at some point.
Oh,
And people
yeah.
forget about that part. And I've worked on, I mean, over at, I worked years ago at Wolfram Research, and they have a massive testing library they built over a couple decades. And yeah, it's very comprehensive. They do an enormous amount of work, but it's a huge amount of work from like 20 people who've worked on it. It's
Wow.
massive.
Right.
It's not a small undertaking.
right, and a lot of times you might have management who they don't necessarily have that strong of a technical background, so it's kind of like the car mechanic problem. You pretty much have to, if you don't have that expertise, you have to rely on what they're telling you. So the developers like, hey, we have all of this level of coverage, but the actual testing, the actual code to test isn't that high quality. So
Hmm.
things are
Right.
still breaking, but you know, management has to rely. They believe the developers like, oh, okay, yeah, we have 100%, but
Hmm.
like, is the code under test, like, or is the test code actually testing the right thing?
Right.
You can like fudge the numbers, like, okay, I'm writing these unit tests or whatever, but are they actually testing
Hmm.
what they should test?
Yeah, and that's the real thing, as you brought up. Are you testing the right things? Because I remember one software community manager, he wrote this horrible report. It was like 20 pages long, which oh, here's all the tests we ran with pie charts and all kinds of crap. And it's like, okay, are we ready to ship? Yes or no? That was the question I had to ask. Like, are we ready to
Yeah.
ship? This is a yes or no question.
Yes
Don't
or
give me
no.
this. How many tests you ran? I don't care. Are we ready to ship? And he couldn't answer that question. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? So what good is this?
Yeah.
Because you need to focus on the tests that matter. And yes, there's always going to be some weird edge case that you can't catch. I mean, you can't catch everything. Let's be honest. But you focus on the areas that you can test. Let's say 95% of the users are going to use this functionality. Okay, well, you might want to focus on those just to make sure. Hey, does this work? And
Yeah.
there's
I
always going
mean,
to be some weird outlier.
are we talking like mostly unit tests, or
Mhm.
what are we really looking at mostly?
Yeah. Well, it really depends what you're working on. I mean, depending on, now, if you're in medical devices, if you're depending on what classification you're working on, you do need to have unit tests as part of the uh, part of your workflow. If you're doing like what class C, which is sort of the most critical level, yeah, unit tests are required. In fact,
Okay.
so that level is required. Level A or B, no, they're not required, but they're nice to have, shall we say? At least it does improve your case, if nothing else. But you can have unit tests, functional tests, system tests. You can have smoke tests. There's just a variety of different testing methodologies you can use that at least shows that hey, the system does what it's supposed to do. And of course, yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Right.
integration test is another one. There's a whole bunch of them you can do.
Yeah, like code quality, that's going to be really huge, and I think there's going to be a lot of money available because at a certain point, companies are going to like they're going to place a premium on getting those few people who can have some assurance of creating quality systems. Like, okay, we're creating a code base that is thoroughly tested in the right way,
Mhm,
and there's a few provable defects. Like if your portfolio is solid in creating these uh, high availability systems, with few defects, things of that nature, you're setting yourself up to make a lot of money because with all the AI generated slop and people who
yeah,
don't really know how to code that well,
mhm,
that's going to cost companies a ton of money once one of these big systems go down, which it,
mhm.
it, it inevitably will.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, just like a crowd strike. I mean, that was a good example of it right there. Look what that cost them. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, until it hits them in the pocketbook, they're going to cut corners on testing, which is unfortunate because that's a really important element. Now in terms of how now the criticality of the code you're working with is going to impact how much level of testing you need. So if you got something that's mission critical and it's got to work, yeah, you're going to be unit testing the daylights out of that thing. Um, and I've done more than my share of unit testing on medical device software, and yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's got to get done because you got to show this thing does work because if some auditor comes in here, show me you've tested this thing. Oh yeah, here you go, here's some test results, and you
Yeah.
show them,
Right.
yeah, we've done our homework.
What
Because the
are
last thing I
the
do is stand in front of an auditor and oh crap.
what
It's
are the
not
best
fun.
qualities? What are the best qualities in unit testing?
It's really having, in terms of best qualities, it's really having a strategy is one thing. We're having a plan. What are we testing? Are they repeatable? Are they realistic? I mean, do these represent are these valid tests in the first place? Because you can be testing all kinds of things, but okay, is this really useful? No. There's a lot of testing that really requires a lot. Testing requires a lot of thinking. And you're like, okay, what to test, how to
Yeah.
test it, are the tests valid, are they reproducible, are they maintainable? Because I mean, the tests are going to change over time. Let's be honest, it's going to change with the code because as code gets more complicated and gets changed or modified, well, the tests have to change with them. And as part of the code quality you were talking about earlier, Kevin, you can use linters and other static analysis tools that can actually go through your code and check for various anomalies. Plus, you have the various coding standards uh, that hopefully, if your company has one, which the good ones do, at least they'll spell here's what's expected. And you can use lints and some of these other tools to automate the whole process. Where if when you do a code check in, it will parse through your code, see if it follows whatever standards or whatever it is, run unit tests on it, and something goes wrong, it spits out says, "Nope, see ya," and
Yeah.
and it doesn't get to the code base. But to set up a system like that takes time. It's not easy, but if you
Yeah.
can do that, oh, that's great.
And like, is that stuff written mostly in Python, the automation?
Uh, it's depending on what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many platforms and other tools out there. It's not just and Python's one, but I see in C and other languages too. Yeah, but fundamentally, I mean, code reviews and walkthroughs is probably one of the simplest things you can do. It's kind of like a pull request, really. If you want to use the Git nomenclature, that's probably one of the simplest things to do and to find defects in your code.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities for juniors to come in by being like a kind of like a subject matter expert on like areas like testing
Mhm.
Like because once things start breaking, then companies are going to start scrambling for someone who can, produce testable code that's not going to, so I mean that's a potential opportunity to break in, and like you also mentioned, maybe like entering through the side door through QA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's how you
exactly.
can get in the industry.
Well,
And
it's probably it's definitely one of the best ways to get in, for sure. It's a great way to get in a company. In fact, that's how I got in. It worked for me. But if you really think about it, you're going to learn a lot in that job. I mean, you'll learn
Oh
more than you
yeah.
realize. I mean, it was eye
Yeah.
opening. I mean, I tell you, I spent 2 years in technical support, and I'll tell you, I learned more about software engineering in that job than I ever did. It was like, whoa, this was like, okay, now I see what happens when we make bad decisions. And boy, it
Yeah.
influenced a lot of how I wrote code professionally because I got to be on the end result of what happens when we make bad bad decisions. I get to get a
Right.
customer yelling at you, like, oh God, what do we do? And then you learned a lot about testing and just how to really make software that's reliable and maintainable, and then it works. And I spent a lot of time talking with customers, up in person, either at a conference because you had the little those booths you have at your tech conference or whatever.
Sure.
I was there answering questions and doing whatever because the sales team didn't know what they're doing when it came to tech questions. So I was there. Hey, how you doing? And so that was quite helpful. But yeah, but don't discount those jobs. I mean, if you figure you're having less competition
I
because
see a
nobody
lot
wants
of
them.
them. I see a lot of
Yeah.
them on LinkedIn. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
these juniors really need to rethink right now. Like
Mhm.
your junior React, junior JavaScript, like
Right.
go for those testing positions because people are hiring for them, and they're
Mhm.
not really hiring for a junior React developer. No one's
No.
looking for that right now.
No. I mean, they figure why hire junior when you can get a mid or senior level? It's
That's the
what's the
thing.
point?
Yeah.
And it's understandable. Like, it just comes to supply and demand right now,
It's just
and there's
basics.
plus a lot of it is just
Yeah.
if you want a junior person, well, you could hire somebody abroad too. They'd be a lot cheaper. I mean, it's like,
Yep.
there you go.
yeah, I think you know, we have to kind of well, a lot of the younger coders, and I mean maybe even in general, we just have to redefine what we think the job is. Like you might not be someone that's just coding all the time. Maybe
No.
you have another role and you're using code to enhance that role.
Right. Hmm. Absolutely, and that's where even testing you could do what's called white box testing, where you're writing code to test code. There you
Right.
go. So yeah, you can get yourself writing code constantly, all day, every day, but you're using that code to test the code. So there are opportunities out there, and especially now you've got data science and analytics, you got SQL and lots of other stuff there. Look there. And especially nowadays, you got GitHub. You can work on a side project if you got one. Make a good side project. Don't just copy and paste someone's repo, which is a common practice. Go with something unique. Well, it's kind of like what James Mayhew has been doing. He's a developer over in England. He's been creating Barely Fit, a little fitness app,
Yeah.
and he's been doing on this, publicly for like what 8 months or something like that. It's an absolute. It's been great to see what he's done. I'm waiting to get the iOS version when it's ready. And here's something he's built, you know, publicly. So my recommendation for some of these juniors, like find something, build something, and put it out there.
Yeah.
And at least you got something to brag about.
Yeah, because otherwise, like you say, you're just copying other people's Git,
Yeah,
and it's not original. Maybe you slap on a different header, you put a different background color, and then you call it a day. Like no,
yeah, that's what a lot of people do. Unfortunately,
but
that's just not going to cut it.
that's what they're doing. Yeah, that's what people are doing.
Yeah, well, it's the lazy way of doing it. It's the minimum amount of work necessary to get the job done, and that's just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think like just working in a completely different industry, unrelated to like software is not their primary product. Is might be very important because
Mhm.
you're working in this other domain. You understand that they have this specific problem, and
Right.
you have the coding skills. So you're in this niche, and you have the ability to solve that problem. Where like just for example, maybe you're in like uh, So I had a friend on LinkedIn. He's like a forest ranger. Or he was a forest ranger, and he got into software for a while. But then he went back to that job. But him being like the park ranger, he kind of understood the problems of that domain.
Hmm.
But there's not a lot of coders in that space. So
Right.
Yeah.
with him having that technical background, he could create an app in that space. But there's not going to be a lot of competitors coming into that space because they don't even understand the problems.
See, yeah,
Mhm.
that's super unique and I
Yeah.
think worthwhile.
That's very valuable because you got someone who's got a lot of that domain expertise, and it's easier to train someone with domain expertise to how to learn code than the other way around. it's
Yeah,
it's so really that's actually a pretty good that's actually not a bad idea. Where if you got something that's really good expertise, you've got someone like saying he's for like being a ranger. Yeah, you've got a very unique view of the problems that someone from the outside are. What are you talking about? I mean, nobody's thinking about a ranger. I mean, honestly, I mean, especially anyone in
sure.
tech. And you know something that you know a lot that we don't. So it's like, hey, great. So if you can pick up some skills, and nowadays you can pick up pretty much whatever coding language of your choice very easily with all the tutorials and everything else that's out there. You can build something, or maybe what you don't know, oh, you can have someone help you out with that who knows something. Maybe they could do a better job on scalability or
Right.
iOS or whatever it is. That you can always get help on, but you've got the domain to know. Just to understand, okay, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's how we should structure it, and you can always pick the rest of it up. That's not a big deal.
And
So
that's
yeah,
always the
that's
question, like, what is the main problem? What is the
right.
problem that needs to be solved? And if you can
Yes.
find a problem, and there are many problems, if you can
Hmm.
find a problem, you just grab onto that and make an
Yeah.
app, make something that's going to solve that problem. And if it
Hmm.
really does, then that goes from a project to being worth millions of dollars.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's the number one question I ask on a lot of these interviews, that I've had in the past. Say, hey, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And you'd be surprised the number of, the silence I've gotten. And he's looking at me, huh? Like, what?
Right.
Like, yeah, what's the problem you're trying to solve for your customers? Who's the user? That's another question I follow with them. Then the third question I'll follow up and say, okay, how will your customer use this? And if you can't answer those three questions, it's game over. It's like, come on. It's you need to know who's your customer. What's the problem you're trying to solve? You can't figure that out.
Yeah.
No, but it's game over. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I think, like as technologists, if we're just like myopic, we're just in that small space, we kind of think that companies just want to pay us to code stuff, but like it
Right.
ultimately has to result in some kind of business value or profit. So,
Hmm.
um,
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, it's about people, and you need to solve their problems. And even during my time as software engineer, I probably spent as much time talking to people as I did writing code. If not more, because
Oh,
boy,
wow.
especially when you go to a conference and people, it's actually nice in a way because instead of talking to them over the phone or through email, you get to have little dynamic conversations with them. And I got to learn so much about what they were thinking, how they looked at the problem. There's all that meta information that's being communicated back and forth that does not show up in an email or on a phone call. And I was just absorbing it like a sponge. I was like, "Oh boy, this is great. Keep talking, Val. Keep going. All right."
That's awesome.
And I could really understand from perspective what was going on and how they were thinking,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
it makes a huge difference. And so, really, I'd say one very underrated skill is listening and just really thinking from the perspective of your customers. And it was true with even medical device companies I worked at. I go to a clinic and I would talk to the doctors and get their view of the system, what the things we're running into. And there was one clinic where things were just blowing up for whatever reason. They had a bad clinic and things didn't go well. And okay, what's going on here? And so I spoke to with a doctor who randomly came in the room and I was doing some maintenance on the system. Okay, okay, oh yeah, I heard you had some issues. Okay, can we go over it, please? Okay. And so I wrote down 7 pages of notes and literally verbatim everything he said, curse words and everything, because he was not happy. But at least I
Yeah.
wrote everything down and I just said, okay, here's what we found. And I handed it to our director of regulatory. And I said, all right, here you go. Here's what we got. Let's figure out, okay, is this a bug? Is this a complaint? Is this something else? Is this a bug? And So we did a whole triage of everything, and it was absolutely
Interesting.
enlightening. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, at least for medical devices, when someone can make an actual complaint and it goes into a very public database, so your competitors get to find out, oh, Doctor X is complaining about this system for whatever.
Yeah,
You
right.
don't want that. So the earlier you get in front of that, the better.
Yeah, that's a great point about listening. I think,
Mhm,
even senior developers, we kind of have to redefine ourselves as
mhm.
not necessarily software developer technologists, but problem solvers who have coding as one tool in the tool belt. Because
Tool belt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, and coding is a very small amount of what we really do on a day-to-day basis, if you really think about it. Especially as you go up the ladder, you're doing less and less coding on a day-to-day basis, but you're spending more time working with people. You're working with different teams, you might be working with your customers, your clients. You're going to be in meetings, making decisions on requirements, architecture, whatever. You're not going to be spending 100% of your time writing code like when you were a junior, where, okay, yeah, that's your job. You just write code. But as you go up the ladder, having the skills of empathy, listening, and really being, you know, just really thinking hard about what it is we're trying to accomplish, what problems are we trying to solve. That will make you stand out from everybody else who is just heads down, who thinks about the latest language du jour or framework or whatever. They're missing the whole point of what you're trying to do here.
yeah, I think that is very important. Is just redefining your mindset and not just thinking of solving coding problems, but more so thinking on the wide scale of the business and how you can bring solutions. And yeah, you probably, you will be more hands off from the code, but
Hmm.
that's fine. Like you can't always be in the mud all the time. So
That's the
Yeah.
thing. And also, like, what some people don't tell you about coding is like, you may have to do a lot of coding. You may have to be sitting there at your computer writing this code, whether it be testing or something else. And my experience was, okay, 8 hours of code, I can't do it. I tried it
Mhm.
and I was just so stressed. But like me and
Yeah.
Kev talk about, like, not everyone's made for tech. Not
No.
everyone is supposed to be in the tech industry. And I learned that, pretty quickly.
That's true. Yeah, it's not for everybody. I mean, coding 8 hours a day every day it's a marathon. It's really hard, and you have to really pace yourself. And there are people who I've seen people who've tried to do the 60, 80 hour work weeks every single week, and they're just burned out. It's
Yeah,
like you've got to
right.
pace
yeah,
yourself. You cannot go 100% all the time. There's just no way can that happen.
yeah, I feel like around the 10-year mark, a lot of coders they move out into more of a management thing because just the grind of always having to learn some new technology.
Yeah.
It wears on you. Like you don't want to spend all your hours after work just learning some new technology.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like you're switching over to director of engineering or maybe creative director.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like, well, we see. Well, that's one of the issues I do see in a lot of companies, just a lack of mobility, where there is no mobility to go up from, let's say, senior level to a lead or a manager, let alone director or something like that. So you're seeing a lot of turnover there, and you see, a lot of, domain knowledge going out the door, which is unfortunate. But even for myself, I got to a certain point where I said, okay, it's time to move on. So I went to project management,
Right.
and I've been doing that for quite a while. I've been enjoying it. And then now it's kind of funny how things are coming back full circle because I was doing a lot of industrial engineering operations research early in my career. And then it went a whole different direction. Now the arc is swinging back to
Uh,
back to operations research, was kind of funny. I'm like, oh wow, it's kind of funny how things go in circles like that. But it's how it goes.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's good to just bounce around a little bit so you can get a
Hmm.
taste of different aspects of the business.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be laser focused on only one aspect and you don't really understand the business as a whole. Like that
Right.
limits your effectiveness.
Mm. Well, but even then, you can also figure out, try different things, and say, here's things I don't want to do, for that matter. Because I mean, when I was doing my MBA, I tried out management consulting for a little bit. I said, okay, let's see what this is like because you keep hearing about it. And I
Sure.
tried it. I'm like, no thanks, not for me. It's good for some people, but no, not for me. It just wasn't a good fit, and that's okay.
That's like with, Kevin and accounting. He went to college for
Mhm.
accounting, and when he got out, he realized, "Wow, like, I actually hate doing this. I
Right.
hate this." Like, what
Mhm.
and so he learned to code, and now he's a
Yeah.
senior developer, so, a
Yeah.
lot can happen overnight.
Mhm. Well, and plus, there's a lot of accounting software companies that could use somebody who knows accounting.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. And there's plenty of those out there. And he's like, "Oh, you know accounting? Oh, you went to school for accounting and you're a software engineer. Perfect."
Perfect.
Yeah, go into finance too, because there's a lot of opportunities with forensic accounting, especially with
Right.
detecting fraud and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's like the new trend is like kind of being multidisciplinary and using code to enhance,
Mhm.
your productivity in that other discipline.
Right.
Like I think the problem of just being like a UI developer or a database developer that's like largely solved now, and it's the compensation is going to be lower and lower for that. Like
Mhm.
you have to develop this unique skill set that's harder to find but brings tremendous value. So like learning
Mhm.
to build systems, architect systems, and you also have like domain knowledge in another discipline that's like really hard to duplicate.
That's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely. I mean, kind of to have my final question, Kev, what would you do if you had to recommend to a junior who's getting into software right now? Like, what's that number one tip that they could be doing?
So the number one tip for me is make sure that this is what you really want to do. Otherwise, you're not going to be
Mhm.
able to withstand the rigors of actually getting the first job and then being able to stay in the
Yeah,
industry and make don't go down the don't take the easy path. Like make sure you understand the fundamental excuse me, the fundamentals of computer science. Like take the
Mhm.
rigorous path because
yeah,
more and more people are jumping into AI generated, they call like vibe coding, like they don't even understand the output of the code.
Mhm.
So if you're somebody that really understands everything that's going on, you're eventually going to be somebody that's counted on when things need to get delivered. So have that deep level technical understanding and combine that with, I mean, even have a second discipline that you're undertaking that you know that gives you like a niche, like a specialty to apply that knowledge, and that'll make you like in really high demand. If that other niche is in high demand, it's going to be almost impossible to replace you at that point.
yeah. That's really good advice.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Yeah, know your fundamentals. If you got the fundamentals down, those will those will continue with you, the rest of your career.
Yeah. What about you, Eric? Like, what would be your advice for like one of these juniors coming into the industry?
Pretty much a lot of what you just said, really. Yeah, know your fundamentals, but really fundamentally figure out, is this really what you want to do? Because I know there's some who they think it's good for them, but then they get into it, they don't, and then they realize, oh my God, this is terrible. It's kind of like
Yeah,
there was a talk with Anthony Bourdain. He was talking about, oh wow, people they dream to go cooking. Oh, I want to be a chef. They go to a cooking school, and then oh, it's the big first busy Saturday night, and he watches them just absolutely disintegrate. And
yeah,
they already glamorizes it. It's like, no, the real world in terms of software engineering, it's hard. It's not easy, but unfortunately, we've kind of sort of made sort of like celebrity chefs out of software engineers in a way where, oh, look how sexy this is. You write code, make 6 figures. No, not
Right.
everybody's doing that. And
yeah,
the reality is, here's what you're going to be expected to do. And yes, you're going to be working with tight deadlines, unrealistic expectations, and lots of other stuff along the way. And can you keep this up for X number of years? And I've seen people absolutely lose their mind after the first year or two, and they go back to whatever it was they did, or they find something else. So you better figure out if this is really what you want to do. and really learn to adapt and just have another, just you're mentioning, Kevin, another specialty where, hey, something else you can do. You better have some skills to fall back on, because if something goes bad, like a bad job market, you better have something else to back up. In fact, for a while there, I used software testing as sort of a crutch in a way. I hate to say it, but it actually got me some jobs where nobody was hiring. Okay, I'll take this job, and it worked out just fine. So it kind of worked out. But yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
my advice.
awesome.
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
getting that ego out of the way is really
Yeah,
important. Like, oh, a lot of people like, oh, I'm a software engineer. That's above me. I'm not going to go do that. But
Right.
right. Hmm.
if you lose your job, you're going to have to do that.
Yeah, you're gonna take
No.
anything, but you're fine. Hey, you know what? Testing isn't too bad.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah, don't worry.
but yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. We'll have to have you back regularly once we do, when time permits, when you have time, and we have these kind
Yeah,
of shows.
yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's just nice. Yeah, I've been watching some of the other shows you've had. This has been had some very good guests. You had some very interesting guests. I will say that. A
All
very
over the
different mix.
map. Yeah, all over the map.
Well, that's been really. I was like, wow, we're getting everything from voice actors to musicians and everybody.
Yeah.